Hey everybody, Dawn Kendrick here with some good news. And the good news is that you're only going to hear good news here. I am a repurposed news reporter, and I am finally doing the stories that have been burning in my heart for so long. They're stories that uplift, encourage, and inspire, and they are real, and they're raw, and they're vulnerable. They're the good stuff stories, and we see it over and over again that through it all, through the middle of our biggest challenges, together we can, together we will. Let's go see the good and be the good. On your mark, get set, let's go. Hello, welcome to the Good Stuff family. This is our Joy Through the Journey series that we continue as we grow this Good Stuff family tree 2023. And each of these guests that I have on every Monday continue to uplift, encourage, and inspire me in ways I never saw coming. And that is exactly what, if you're new to this podcast or this live stream, that's what we're all about here. I am a repurposed news reporter, and I finally get to tell these stories of people who are overcoming, who have so many really, God, really questions that become, oh, really, God, really? In which they are able to flip the script. And it's not easy. It's not, we say it's real, raw, genuine, authentic, and vulnerable to share those stories, but to see the purpose in the pain, basically. These are the people we celebrate, we learn from, and the people who are, again, building, growing this Good Stuff family tree as we add branch after branch. And it's really exciting. It's so exciting. So today I get to introduce you to Matt Odie. This is a man who made physical training was super important, is still super important. But here he is cruising through life. He's strong, he's fit, and not just one curveball, but several that kept coming. And we get to introduce you to him today in his own words to share his story of all the good stuff he's doing now. It's great. It's so good. So let me just pull him up right now and introduce you. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Don. How you doing?
I'm so good. You look good. You sound good. I appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Super excited today. I'm excited to share my story, but also, all the lessons I've learned along the way as well to help anybody else, whether it's their own health journey or, work through a lot of limiting beliefs and mindset as well.
That's it. That's it. Because we say the heart and the mind are so different. In my case, when I was a reporter, I realized that whole last year, my head said, you better keep your nose to the grindstone, do what they need you to do. It's a great job. And it was a blessing to have worked in broadcast news for so long. But my heart kept going, nope, nope, nope. So I know you're a big advocate of mind and body, mind and body. And we say, Paul, I think when he said in Philippians 4:6, he said, will protect your hearts and your minds through Christ Jesus. He didn't say will protect you through Christ Jesus, which would have saved some words. I think he knew the heart and the mind are so different. The physical being and the mental being, this is where you are so awesome. And your story and your example is so fantastic. So just give me kind of an overall view. And then I'd love, if it's okay with you, to show, let our listeners and our viewers see a little bit of the video they can find at your website at mattodiespeaks.com. But just kind of get us started with an overview.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm currently 31 years old now, from Cleveland, Ohio. And at the age of 24, I was diagnosed with stage 3C testicular cancer, which is the highest form of testicular cancer. Most cancers go to about stage 4. For testicular, for some reason, it's 3C, which is the same exact thing. At the time, I was a personal trainer, super healthy, working out 5-6 days a week, eating the right foods. You pretty much, I was pretty much in the best shape of my entire life. And of course, when you're in your 20s, you think you're invincible. And for me, with testicular cancer, most men, their first symptom is in their testicle. And for me, I never had that symptom, but I did have massive back pain. And what actually caused me to go to the hospital was one night, I was over my now wife, Lauren. I was over her house and I ended up puking up blood. Get rushed to the emergency room. They do a blood test on me. They found out that I had lost 2/3 of blood circulating in my body. And immediately, after they'd given me 6 bags of blood, they thought it was an ulcer that was causing the bleeding. So they rushed me into an emergency surgery. They find out the next day, thinking that it was an ulcer. I'm sitting in the recovery room ready to go home. They find out it was a lot more than that. And I just remember the doctor coming in, and I'm thinking I'm ready to just get discharged and go home. And all of a sudden I see this blank stare in his eyes. And it's just me and my parents at the time. And I remember him coming over, walking over to me. He sits down, he grabs my hand, and he goes, "Matt, we found an 11-centimeter tumor in your small intestine. We know it is cancer. We just don't know what type yet. And we have to rush you from this local hospital to the Cleveland Clinic." And pretty much in a matter of, 24 hours, my life completely turned upside down. And I just remember, talking about the mental aspect of it. For us men, especially, we like to tend to hold things in a lot, hold in our emotions, hold in how we feel, because we think that if we're vulnerable, that's going to be a sign of weakness. But I want to express today that, women are a lot better than this usually, is expressing your emotions. But I also want to share this to men too, that it's okay to open up to somebody you can love and trust. And for me, that was Lauren. And, it was really, really challenging at the time. But I remember once I figured out that I had stage 3C testicular cancer, and I knew that at the time, Lauren was only dating me for 3 months, but she's like, "I'm staying with you throughout this whole entire journey." And that right there allowed me to kind of break down. I remember we first started talking about it, we started crying, and that was my first time where I could finally say, okay, what are my next steps in this journey? Because I think in order for you to progress forward in life, you have to be willing to let go of a lot of baggage that's holding you back in life, and then finally be able to release it and go towards that next step. So what had happened was I ended up going on to 5 rounds of what's called BEP, which is bleomycin, etoposide, and cisplatin. It was really challenging because me at such a young age, they told me that they were going to put me on the most potent drugs because I could handle it. But also, as you could tell, I've lost my hair. I was really weak a lot of the times, kind of bedridden for, probably half of the journey. And, it was a really, really difficult time of my life because, you're in your young 20s and you have such a life ahead of you. But for me, it was like, how do I save my life? How do I get through this? And, so I kept persevering. I eventually got through chemotherapy, and, thinking that was the hardest part. Unfortunately, that was actually the easiest part of my journey. What had happened was I ended up sitting down with my oncologist, and he said, "Matt, we have some really good news, and we have some tough news as well. The good news is the chemo is working. You have, it shrunk your tumor from 11 centimeters to 3 centimeters. On top of that, your AFP, which is the blood tumor marker they were tracking, a normal AFP marker for males should be under 5. I was over 100,000 when I first started, which is off the charts. So he's like, your tumor markers are under 100. It's working incredible. But here's the issue. Your tumor is wrapped around what's called your inferior vena cava. Now, your inferior vena cava is basically a central vein that goes from the bottom of your upper body to your heart. We're going to have to get a 12-hour surgery in to remove the tumor, to remove the rest of the cancer in your body. And we don't know what the complications are going to entail because it's such an extensive surgery for where the tumor is. So that was the longest 2 weeks of my life of just waiting for that surgery, but I got it done. And unfortunately, a long story short, we can go into more detail, later on, but my body ended up shutting down about a week and a half after the surgery. I went to what's called compartment syndrome. My body had swollen up so much. I was 145 pounds going into the surgery. I'd lost about 40 pounds throughout chemo. Coming out of the surgery, I was close to 200 pounds from swelling and just my body, I think, kind of going into a survival mode from all of the hard work that they had to do to get rid of all the cancer. So my body ended up shutting down about a week and a half later, get rushed back to the emergency room after I had finally been released from the hospital. They ended up having to drain 7 liters of fluid out of my stomach, causing me to go into complete kidney and liver failure. I ended up having to go into a 2-week non-induced coma. I was in the ICU for over 40 days. I was in the hospital for over 53 days. In a matter of that time period, a week out of my coma, I went into cardiac arrest when they went to take out one of the catheters in my neck. I had a catheter in my chest and in my neck because they thought I was going to be on dialysis the rest of my life. They started to see some progress. They went to take it out. I had an arrhythm heartbeat. They had to do 5 to 7 minutes of CPR on me to bring me back to life. And I fell into another 1 week coma where they had to seduce me. And then I had to completely relearn to walk and relive my life again. And from literally laying on that ICU bed to taking my first steps again, it took a matter of 2 to 2.5 weeks with 4 nurses every single day, constantly trying to help me. And by the time I was released from the hospital, I had dwindled down to 110 pounds. I couldn't eat, I couldn't drink anything because of all the surgeries they'd done on my stomach. I had 5 surgeries. The last surgery they did was a massive what's called an open wound surgery, where they had to remove all of my abdominals and basically put a massive football sized mesh on my stomach, where it took almost an entire year for my skin to completely heal over that wound. But what I'll say, as the recovery process, talking about the mindset, talking about the body, talking about transforming your life, it took, number one, a ton of faith. Me being a Christian, I have so many stories that I can share about faith and everything, that I know for a fact, God had a massive part in this journey. But number one was my faith. Number two was my incredible support system and medical staff, from Lauren to my family to my friends to the medical staff at the Cleveland Clinic. And number three, I always say this, is the best investment you can ever make is in yourself. And if I truly don't believe that I had taken care of myself previous to cancer and gained the knowledge that I needed, to become a better version of myself, I think the process of healing would have been even more challenging, as hard as it already was. So eventually I was able to persevere. Slowly but surely, I was learning to walk again. I was gaining my strength back, and I started eating healthier again. And before you knew it, I was becoming a better and healthier version of myself. And this process, no joke, took about 2 years to fully heal myself after cancer. And it started with working through the limiting beliefs, because, 8 months, earlier, I was this healthy, fit personal trainer, and now I'm this dwindled down kind of shell of myself. And I had a lot of body image issues. I had a lot of challenges that, I had to overcome. Of, am I even worthy to heal myself? God, why did you put me in this situation? And I was starting to become the victim of the situation. And finally, I made that switch. And that's what allowed me to take actionable steps towards healing myself. I think the only way you're going to be able to take actionable steps is you must be able to work through any limitations that you set for yourself. And all it takes is one compounding small win a day that will lead into compounding weekly wins, that will lead into compound monthly wins. The next thing you know, by a year from now, you'll be a totally different version of yourself. And that's what I had to do, is just focus on one task a day that's going to help push me forward to becoming a better version of myself. And once I finally did that, after about 2 years, I think a lot of people can attest to this, that when you go through something super dramatic, super challenging in life, you feel like you've been given a second chance, and you kind of ask yourself, well, what's next? You feel like, okay, I didn't just go through all of this to just go back to whatever I'm doing. You feel like there's something bigger out there for you. And for me, that is how I was finally able to get into speaking and get into coaching other individuals who have gone through challenging moments in their life and are looking for guidance and helping recover their body and their mindset. So that is kind of my whole premise of my life right now, is helping people through those challenges, through speaking and through coaching.
You're speaking my language. Like, I know your story and I have goosebumps, because you have, as a reporter, we'd sit in news conferences, we take notes. What's that? You had so many quotes just now that I couldn't have probably even taken notes fast enough. That's why I'm so grateful that you're sharing your story, because that's the really God, really moments. That's what you referred to. Of course, I would wonder about us if we didn't say really God, really. Lord knows there are so many questions we have for him. But I love what you said. Flip the script. As a reporter, I wrote scripts all day long. I can't script my own life. I don't know that the new guy through the door is going to come in and not renew my contract. And I'm going to be grateful even to this day for what those stations were for me. They built up, they allowed me to meet people like you. But now I have the opportunity to take off. And you spoke to me. And I hope if you're within earshot of this, that Matt is speaking to you as well. So I have a couple questions before we talk about what you're doing now, which is fantastic. But you mentioned faith. Not every story that we profile here has to be rooted in faith. If you're uplifting, encouraging, and inspiring, I want to tell your story. But more often than not, Matt, you've probably found as you speak your testimony, people crave it. And they are either they find themselves finding faith through the really God, really moments, or their faith is strengthened. And you don't know till you've been through it. And what a shame if we bottled it up. And so give me another window into what kind of role faith. You said there are millions of faith stories. We have time. Let me in on some of your favorite moments in which, even in when you were questioning God, how he showed up for you.
Absolutely. So yeah, a lot of moments where, I question God, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with, you know, not question, of course we're all going to question things, but for me, it was more questioning not whether God existed or not. It was more questioning, God, why are you putting me through this? And, I truly believe that God gives his toughest battles to the people that he knows can endure them. And he has a mission and a bigger purpose for you with it. And just know that if you're going through the toughest times, that God may be putting you in a rock bottom situation to be able to flip the switch and have a 180 into a brand new chapter that you would never be able to embark on if he hadn't put you in these challenging situations and the lessons that you needed in order to progress forward in your life. So here's probably I'll share two really cool stories. So first one is when I was in my coma. So I was in a coma for 2 weeks, and my mom is a very, very faith-based. And what she did was she set up 3 massive prayer services at our local church where friends, family, local members would come and pray for me. And you had Lauren and my mom and my dad in the ICU room. And really, unless they absolutely had to leave, they were pretty much there every single day. And what had happened was we'd have hundreds of people attend this local service. And then what I was told was we had thousands of people around the world. They had people just everywhere just praying for me. And then you had Lauren. Every day she would come up, she would hold my hand, and she would just pray to God for healing, pray to God for me to wake up. And no joke, on the very last prayer service, right in the middle when everyone was praying, Lauren was also praying. She was holding my hand, and thousands were praying around the world. That was the exact moment that I ended up waking up from my coma. And I remember, I don't remember, but Lauren had told me she ran over to the nurses. She told them that I was waking up. She could feel my hands starting to move. They were like in shock. They didn't know if they could believe her or not. So they ran, grabbed the surgeon. Everybody comes in and finds out that I'm starting to wake up. And for me, that is such a powerful moment of sharing the power of prayer and in how powerful, asking for healing, asking for, miracles in your life. And for me, it was God's way of saying, Matt, this isn't the end of the journey. This is a brand new beginning of something bigger that I have for you. And, a lot of the times we will never understand, why we go through these things and these challenging moments. But on the other side of these difficult times is some of the biggest opportunities and the brightest light we could ever imagine. And for me, it just goes to show the power of prayer, the power of what God can do in your life, with numbers, and that's why I always say the power of getting people together and praying it's unexplainable and miracles that can happen. So that was one story of faith that, that they had no idea when I was going to wake up. They didn't know if I was going to wake up. So, the fact that happened, I can't see any other way, but, of course, an incredible medical staff, of course, incredible support and stuff like that, but also the power of prayer. So number 2, I'll share this one too. Whenever I usually do my speaking, I usually actually start off the day that I met Lauren, and that is March 17th of 2016. So it was St. Patrick's Day. We just met out at the bar and we instantly connected. And, within weeks and stuff like that, we started dating. But the whole point of it is her throughout my journey of just always being there for me, every single day. I mean, when I say she's there all 53 days of that hospital, she would wake up. She stayed at the hotel that was literally inside the hospital. She would wake up at 5:30 in the morning, sneak in. If you're in the ICU, you're technically not allowed to have visitors until like 8 or 9 o'clock. She would sneak in, come see me, and she'd just be there for me. And when I was released after 53 days from that hospital, it was March 17th of 2017, exactly 1 year from when we met. And I know that's not a coincidence. It's just a day for us now. It's so incredible. And it goes to show the power of support and, certain people in your life for a reason. Hey, Don, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. I love this so much. I can't even tell you. Like I said, I know your story. I know your story. And the sidebars, as we would call them, of faith, it's repurposed lives. Don't you feel like it's a repurposed life that you're on?
Absolutely. It is. I really think in order for you to fully be able to embrace the new version of yourself, you have to be able to leave certain parts of your old self away. You have to be able to repurpose your life. You have to let go of toxic or things that weren't serving you in life. And sometimes, God has to put you through the most challenging moments in order for you to actually see where you need to go next.
That's it. That's it. And again, it's easy for someone to say that, but for someone who's been there, done that, that's your superpower, isn't it? Excuse them, I guess the pun, because you were a picture of physical fitness, and lo and behold, you lost all this weight, it took you down. I thought that's why I had the mic off for a second. I thought I had this picture in where you have all of those things stuck to you for EKG and all of that. So again, this is where you were. This is what I know we already showed this. Yet you're still doing the thumbs up. This is where you were. It wasn't till you were taken to that place that we wouldn't have scripted. We couldn't have scripted. And lo and behold, what do you do? What do you do? You turn around and you work it for good. And Romans 8:28 says he works all things together for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. There it is. Like, it's easy to say, and I can already feel skeptics. Can't you, listening to this? Really, really? Well, then why would God ask you to do that in the first place? What do you say to those people? Because it's a legitimate question. We asked it ourselves,
Yeah,
didn't we, when we go
absolutely.
through the fire?
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody skeptic, I'm not here to force things on you, but what I am here is to share my testimony, and I think that is the greatest way to influence people. If you just force things down people's throat and just say, you have to believe this or you have to do this, they will never do it. It's like a child trying to listen to their parents. And that's not going to happen. When a parent's trying to force things through their child and things like that, the kids, resent them for it and they don't want to listen. They don't want to hear things. So people who are skeptical, I'm just here to share my testimony. I'm just here to share things that I can't explain. And, things that internally, I know for a fact that I wouldn't have this passion, or I wouldn't have this new purpose of my life if it weren't for the true love and the true faith that I was able to slowly gain with God. And I think that it doesn't just happen overnight. It takes time. It's like anything. You have to learn to grow through these moments and grow through your faith as well. Pick up a Bible, start reading it, or attend a church service, or just start, watching videos or watching, podcasts like this. And, slowly but surely, hopefully, you can start to see these miracles happen in your life, or just simply start with a prayer one time and just see what happens. And you'll be amazed at some of the things that God can bring into your life. So that's what I would tell people that are skeptical is, just give something a shot. It can't hurt. And I promise you, you'll be amazed at some of the things that enter into your life with that.
Yes. And my friend Corinne, who was on the previous podcast that we taped, the Monday podcast. She said, "Here's the deal. Like, it's one thing to memorize Bible verses, but and even to call yourself Christian, that's cool. But until we allow Christ to live through us, that's what you're doing. It's faith in action." And we are. I love that you said, "I'm not forcing anybody. We don't have the answers. We won't until we're on the other side, probably. But in the meantime, the people who showed up for you, your now wife, your mama, and all of these people who showed up for you in that way, we can become the hands and feet of Christ to people like you."
Absolutely, 100%. And I love that you said it's faith in action, because that is what it's about. I think that is what God truly wants from us. Is He wants us to be willing to pray, but not just pray and just say, "Oh, God's just going to give me my answers." No, He wants us to go into the unknown. He wants us to embrace the unknown and take what's called imperfect action, which means taking action knowing that you are most likely going to fail along the way. It's going to get a little dirty, but that's where He's going to allow you to grow. Remember, you don't just grow through your success. You actually grow through your failures. You grow through the times that you get knocked down, and you grow through times where the greatest lessons that you will ever have is when you feel that, there's nowhere else to go but truly believing in Him. That's His whole point, is He wants you to put all your faith into Him. When you start putting your faith into material things or external sources into this world, that is where you will fall short of whatever your full potential will be in life.
That's it. That's it. And I'm looking at what you do now. So let me ask, is this picture that you sent, is this after or is this before?
So this is after, actually.
See?
Yeah, it's incredible. You would never be able to tell. Yeah, that's just through chemotherapy. The one that I sent you, if you have it with all the EKGs and all that on me, that's a true representation of me in the ICU. That's like me going through chemotherapy. That one as well. I think I sent you one with the EKG, but anyways, yeah, this picture right
You
here.
did. You
This
know what
is
you did, and I'm gonna get while you're explaining this picture, I'm gonna
yeah,
go get producer Travi. I'm gonna have him get that because I tried to put it in, the mic was off. I'm gonna go get that. You go explain again. This is after. So again, if
yeah,
you're watching, let me remind you, if you're listening to this as a podcast, you can go to thegoodstufffamily.com and see the live stream that we're doing. The was recorded, the stream in which you can see these pictures. So here you are after. This is the very beginning. This is
yep.
chemo
Mhm.
only. So we're going to go find, while you're talking, we're going to find that picture because it wasn't, as you said, it wasn't even over with chemo. So when you see this picture, tell me again what you were about to say.
Yeah. So with this picture, it just shows that, what I guess I can best explain is, don't let your current situation um, be your final destination. A lot of the times, we think that just because we're in a really challenging moment, this is going to be the be all for our lives. And I would have to say, completely false. This is actually the stepping stone towards, just as you saw in the picture, something much bigger in your life. And for me, I'll share a little story of how I got to where I was with speaking and, coaching. So when I first, after 2 years of really healing myself mentally, emotionally, and physically, I then was like, okay, well, what's next? And, what I started doing was I actually started looking up just motivational YouTube videos. And I came across this podcast of this entrepreneur. His name was Ed Mylett. He's also a very motivational guy as well. And the podcast said broke to $400 million. And I was like, whoa, this is just a catchy tagline. I want to see what this is about. So I go on, I watch the video, and the video had nothing to do with the money that he made. It had everything to do with the adversity he was able to overcome and all of the challenges he had to endure to becoming the person he wanted to be. And I said, whoa, like, this is exactly what I want to do with my life, is share all of the challenges I went through to help inspire and change others' lives. So I said, how do I join his community? Because what I always tell people is, if you want to get somewhere in life, you must surround yourself with people who have either done it and somebody that you admire, or people who are in the same direction as you, because you truly are the average of the 5 people that you hang around with the most. And I was like, okay, well, does he have any groups or anything like that? And no joke, as I was looking it up, that month, he started a business mastermind group. And I said, you know what? I'm making this investment in myself. I'm joining it. And it was one of the best investments I ever made, because what I was able to do was I got into a group of hungry, young, individuals who wanted to do something bigger with their life. And I was deathly afraid to share my story at the time. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no clue where I wanted to go with my life. But all I knew was I was taking imperfect action and stepping into the unknown. And when I did so, everyone was starting to share their story and things like that. And I started to share my story, and everyone was kind of just like taken back and be like, so are you a motivational speaker? Are you a coach? What do you do? And I'm like, I do nothing right now. I just healed from cancer. Like, this is so new to me. And they're like, okay, here's what I recommend. Here, go and do X, Y, and Z. So I started doing speaking. I started to get on stages. I started to share my testimony. I started to share my story. Next thing you knew, I was learning how to coach other people. I was, using my personal training background to help other individuals through something I had went through into a similar situation that they had been going through. Then next thing you know, I decided to build a cancer Facebook group. This is about 2 years ago. And it took me 3 months to even get the courage to do this. But I said, you know what? I want to build a community to help other individuals who are patient survivors or caregivers, really help them through their journey with cancer, whether it is in the middle, whether it is in the beginning, the middle, the end, or just as a caregiver or a survivor. So we have now grown that group to over 6,000 members. It is an absolutely incredible group. And the whole premise is just helping change lives who've gone through challenging moments through cancer. And now I've even taken it a step further and helped other people who've just gone through challenging moments in general, and helping them transform their mind, transform their body. But it's stepping into the unknown and knowing that faith comes from lack of clarity, but yet saying, God, I know that you have this purpose for me. I know you have this plan. So I'm going to take these scary first steps, knowing that you are the one guiding me, not some external source. So that was kind of a story of I guess you could say the picture, but more or less just me recovering.
So good. I could listen forever. And it says on your website, again, mattodyspeaks.com. Check it out. It says that people can book you. It says helping individuals transform their mind, body, and spirit. Back to the beginning of what we talked about, mind, body, and spirit, as a transformation coach and highly sought after keynote inspirational speaker. I could listen to you forever, because why? You're real, raw, genuine, authentic, and the word you used as well, vulnerable. This is it. This is it. None of us are able to script, but what we can do is rise up in a purpose-driven life. What we can do is show up for people, and holding them up in prayer was the case for you and your now wife. So that's a whole other avenue of inspiration for people. Who are you going to pick to spend the rest of your life with? This is it. It's rooted in faith. It's I'm not leaving your side. Ooh, I could go on and on. I love it. I love it so much. So we have the picture now, thanks to producer Travi. So
Awesome.
let's just go back to here now. So you've already had chemo. One moment. Here's you. Thumbs up. If you're only listening on the podcast, he's thumbs upping from a bed, bald. He's lost all of this weight. Still the thumbs up. And that wasn't the end. So then here comes this picture again. Tell me what you had gone through here now again. This is, yes, you look even skinnier there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that was me coming out of my not my second or my first coma, but my second coma of learning to walk. As you could tell, what they would literally have to do, no joke, as you can see, I'm in this little chair and I'm dwindled down. I mean, I've got wires connected. As you could tell, I have the catheter in me. And the one in my neck they had already taken out. So I had gone into cardiac arrest, and this was me learning to walk again. And what they would do is they would literally lift me up from the bed, and you had some two big dudes too. I think they were like the security guys or something. Like these two big dudes would lift me up and just sit me on this chair. And sitting on the chair was even painful, because my body, I mean, I was laying there for weeks and my body had dwindled to absolutely nothing. So this was probably the most painful part of the journey, because learning to walk again, unless you've gone through it and you've had to learn to walk and you don't understand, like it's almost like infant stages, but with like a lot of pain involved too. And it was a really, really challenging moment of my life. But I will say this, anytime now that I have difficult moments in my health journey, or I feel like I'm just not where I want to be, I can look back at these moments and say, wow, if I was able to overcome this, what I'm going through today, is really a piece of cake. And sometimes that's what you need. I always say this: if you only live in the past, it's going to cause depression. If you only live in the future, it's going to cause massive anxiety. So instead, you want to mostly live in the present. You want to learn from the past, live in the present, and plan for your future. And this is basically it right here. I don't live in this past. I like sharing it because what it's allowed me to do is inspire and help other people, but it's only for lessons and, to really impact others, not for me to create more anxiety and things like that in my life. Because I'll tell you right now, there's things you just can't control, and you have to learn to let certain things go in your life.
In fact, is this you now? This is the person who goes and inspires people.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
I wish I could put them side by side. Wait, well, just allow me this not advanced technology. Look, here we go. So do not live in your past. It'll just cause depression. There it is. Don't worry about the future. It's just going to cause anxiety. Lord knows I know that.
Yep.
But live in the present. And here is the present. Here's the present, Matt Odie. Look, wait, I have to put on my cheaters. Speaking of not getting any younger. Where is it? The present Matt Odie is right here. Look at this. Look at this. I mean, you saw a fitness trainer. God asked you to, can you be patient enough with me? Can you be humble enough with me? Can you be grateful enough with me through this journey? And can you watch? This is a transformed, not just body, but a heart and a mind and a soul. And let's not just glean over the quick little mention that you made of, did you say 6,000 Facebook followers?
Yeah, just in the group alone, like it was, yeah, we have over 6,000 members in our Facebook group now. And I'm telling you, it's a family. It really is,
It is. I get it. I get that.
it really is
And
a family, and it's for love, support, and guidance for whatever journey you're in through cancer. And I've also just recently, the past 3 weeks, created what's called Survivor HQ, and this is just for survivors looking to take care of take back control of their mindset and their body. And we now have over 300 members in that group already, and it's only been 3 weeks. So I'm going to tell anybody out there, if you have something on your mind, you have like a dream, or you have a huge goal you want to reach, don't be afraid to just go out there and do it. Like I said, it took me 3 months to have the courage to do the Facebook group. And I promise you, once I did it, it wasn't as scary as I thought it was. The scariest part is the stories we play in our head. It's not the actionable steps that we take. It's actually the stories, the made up stories we say in our mind that doesn't allow us to push forward. And don't ever let somebody else's criticism or negativity bring you down, because that just shows their insecurities, not your insecurities. That just means that they've been going through something in their life that they haven't taken control of yet. And the only way they can express it sometimes to make them feel better about themselves is to try to bring other people down to their level. So don't ever let somebody bring you down. Or if you do hear negative criticism, block them out, because guess what? If you know it's pure intention in your heart and you're doing what you think is right, keep going, keep pushing forward. There are people out there that need to hear your story, that need to hear your message, and need to hear what you have to do with your life.
Absolutely. Can you tell and we can put it in the show notes as well, but what is that Facebook support group that you'd like to share, as well as what you just started?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called Cancer Patient / Survivor, Taking Back Your Life from Cancer. I'll say it one more time: Cancer Patient / Survivor, Taking Back Your Life from Cancer. That is my cancer Facebook group. And the other group is called Survivor HQ. Survivor HQ is the other Facebook group.
And I see, because I remember I follow you, and when your posts pop up, I try to share as much, because just 4 days ago, your post, this is crazy, that we talked, I think, back in November. And the fact that we're just doing it now, I think we're supposed to do it just now, because you said 4 days ago, you posted this very picture that we just showed of you laying in bed, but 6 years ago today. I might have missed that this is a pivotal anniversary.
It is, yeah. 6 years ago, I was in a coma right now. I'll tell you that. I was in a coma 6 years ago. So puts things in perspective. A lot to be grateful for, a lot to be truly blessed. And there are times in life where you're like, why is this happening? And just like you said, the answers, we will not know some answers until, we're able to be in the presence of God. We really won't, and that's why I say, please, just do some research and look into, having faith. So.
Having faith. And the fact that you shine a light on testicular cancer too. So many, that's how we found you. Our friend John Webb, who speaks out, he said, "Oh, you gotta meet this guy, Matt Odie. Woo! He's doing some good things." And that's it. Okay. So we don't know what's coming, but we can use our own stories. So no telling how many people maybe went to be tested because of your testimony. Right. And that when the Good Stuff family that we're growing, welcome to the family, by the way. We say two things. We say, together we can, together we will, exactly what you're doing, exactly what you're encouraging other people to do, to see the good in people and then be the good for them. You had that moment where like, people are like, "What are you doing?" "I'm doing nothing." "Well, look at you now. Look at you now." And then the other thing we say is, God weaves, now watch him work. That's what we're doing through these podcasts. That's what you're doing with each person that joins those groups. And that is powerful. Yes, there's so many things we feel powerless against. We want all the answers. But guess what? There is power through the journey. There is joy through the journey. We know it to be true.
Yep, there really is. I always say, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard that before, but it's so true that I can guarantee you when you do reach your destination, it won't be the destination that brings you true happiness. It'll be looking back at the journey and how much you've been able to endure and how much you were able to grow throughout that journey. That's what you can truly be proud of. The people you impacted, the things you worked through internally and externally. And then that destination is kind of like the icing on the cake. That's what it is. But I will tell you this, you have to be willing, if you're ever going to actually reach that destination, you have to be willing to really put your full attention into the journey. Don't just focus on the destination and think that it's just going to magically happen overnight. Or, like you were saying, patience doesn't just mean that, oh, I have this grand idea and eventually it'll just come to me, through faith, or it'll just come to me, without having to take any type of action. No, what really patience is you putting in the work every single day without expecting the actual results. You just keep pushing forward until you have that breakthrough in your life, and knowing that it's going to take some time, but before you know it, that breakthrough will come, usually at the least expected time of your life.
You're speaking my language. I want to show this picture quickly. Was this you working on your way back?
Yeah, so as you can tell, that's my scar right there. So if you look at my stomach, that is the football size mesh that they had to put over my stomach, and as you can tell, that's the skin trying that has finally healed over my stomach as well. This is about 4.5, 5 years out of cancer. And it I had a lot of body image issues. I mean, my whole life I had a six pack. I was this fit personal trainer, and now I have this huge lump on my stomach. At the time, I was 110 pounds. And at this picture, you can tell I've gained all my weight back. But, but what I learned was, my scar is actually something that can help other individuals. Just know your scars in life are something that you should be proud of. It's like a symbol of being a warrior. It's like a symbol of strength that you were able to endure, that you can then take and use to help others who maybe have similar scars as you. And it doesn't have to be a physical scar. It can be a mentally, or emotional scar as well.
Perfect that you mentioned that, because I'm now looking at your post again and it says, well, let's see, whatever setback you're facing, ask God how it's setting me up for something bigger in my life. We may not be able to see it at the moment, put your trust in God and you'll see how powerful his healing can be. But also you mentioned like I saw PTSD. I'm scanning through all of this. Like you are able to mentor and be the good. Maybe it's not cancer survivors. There's anxiety. Lord knows I know that. There's PTSD for things that we want to always be in control. Have you found that you're mentoring to people too who come to you? I heard you mention that earlier, just whatever you're up against. So I'm hoping whoever's listening to this, what do you want them to, maybe they're not cancer survivors, but what, Matt?
Yeah, no, first of all, I think sometimes we need to find people that we can relate to in order to overcome some of our anxiety and depression. It's hard to, there's definitely a time and place for a therapist, but sometimes when we go to therapists and we're going through something really traumatic, or we've overcome something really traumatic in our lives, it's hard for them to relate to us if they haven't actually gone through the situation. So I would urge you to find a community or find a group of people that have overcome what you are trying to overcome, and you can ask them questions and you feel like you can relate to them. And that's my whole point. That's why I want to coach and help other people, is because I feel like as recovery and a survivorship, it is something that is not talked about enough. You have doctors, incredible medical staff and things like that for certain times and places. But then after it, in the recovery stage, you're on your own pretty much, and you have family and friends, but they can't necessarily relate because they're the caregivers. So for me, I want to be the person that helps the patients, helps the people who, are in that survivorship aspect and are ready to take that next step, but just are maybe having those anxious thoughts or having those, limiting beliefs in their life. So that's what I would say to somebody who's, trying to work through that, is find somebody you can relate to, not necessarily always just somebody who might be a professional, but you can't relate in that aspect. Not saying that there's not a time and place for it. I'm just saying that is